So thanks for coming, everybody. And somehow we decided to take the scenic route down because we went straight past the off-ramp. So sorry about that, but yeah, we're here and I'm happy to see you all. Familiar and new faces, so yay, wonderful. I'm just so glad this place is open again. We needed it more than ever. Not that it was ever not needed. But after this whole Corona madness, well, I think we're just actually blaming Corona way too much for stuff that has nothing to do with her in the first place. But let's not go into that corner. What I keep on hearing is like in the last few months by now, because I believe it's 170 days that we're doing those. I saw it on the way down. Now that's most likely why we missed the sign. 170 days. It is like, and I remember when it started, we were like, 2 weeks lockdown. Oh my God. And I was like, oh, is it 170? So it's like, it's amazing how we adapt, if it's good for us or not, and how we just go with stuff, and how we went from absolute outrage. Now, actually, first it was like, oh, our country is protecting us, to absolute outrage, now enough with this nonsense, to like, what in hell is going on? And it's kind of like, there is this whole process. And for that, I'm actually very, very grateful for good old Rona. And yes, everything exists in duality. And let's be honest, shooting Rona for being the postman is not quite fair, because we as humanity and as individuals and the energy that we hold and create, we've ordered this parcel. And Corona, or good old Rona, how I've put it, is really just a postman. Now, we don't need to like her. It's like you don't need to like any postman, but fact is, it wouldn't be here if we wouldn't have somehow ordered it. I know people don't want to hear it, or lots of people don't want to hear it, and I'm not saying those that lost jobs are not earning money and deserve that. It's got nothing to do with that. But what it does have to do is when people come and say like, oh, I lost my job and I got retrenched, and it's like, oh, there's going to be so much more divorces now. Yeah, or babies being born. So it's like, this is actually a cleansing year. And I mean, how many years, centuries did we have where the universe said, knock, knock, you might want to sort out your life? We're like, nah, we just keep on over-compromising and having more like buffer zones. We just get more busy, and we have more medication, and we have more excuses, and we have more electronical stuff on and whatever, just not to deal with stuff. And I mean, how often did you hear like, oh, I'm only still with this person because as long as I can do my ladies' lunches, I can put up with him. And as long as there's aftercare, I'm not killing my children. But what it was really saying, as long as I've got something else to put a lid on that, I'm not going to deal with it. Because that's ultimately what it was. And it wasn't even, it doesn't matter if it was with relationships, if it was with jobs, if it was with living circumstances, if it was with friends. How often do we have those friends, ooh, I'm only going to see her, that one, when those people are around, because otherwise I can't make this woman or that guy. And it's like, this one on a small dosage. Why are we entertaining all of that? We made space for stuff that we knew wasn't healthy, but we didn't want to deal with it. We didn't want to be the bad ones. We didn't want to rock the boat. We didn't want anybody thinking horribly of us. So we rather did it for them. So if we really look at it, we had years and years of that. So those marriages and families that are falling apart now, guess what? Rona only magnified what was there. She didn't bring anything new. She really didn't. What she does now is like, okay, let's see if you like what you created in its core. Now, who made this family? You. Who stayed in this job every single day, if it was good or not? You. Who kept those people around, and however often or not often you saw them? You. How often did you say yes when you meant no? You. That was all on us. Now, this is not the universe saying, told you I'm going to get you. No, it's the universe saying, I gave you years and years of that to ignore your inner voice, or to make another story, or just go like 10% in instead of 100% in. I will not be part of you shortchanging yourself anymore. I will not stand by anymore and watch you for another few centuries, decades, or whatever, to run yourself into the ground. Because what happened is, by now, we've become, and of course I'm generalizing, there's always the odd one out, but we've become a whole population, a whole world, it's not just in one country, a whole world where we've only started looking on the outside. And the outside determined who we were. The job, the house, the size of the family, no matter how happy or unhappy it was, as long as it was there, we're good. As long as we drive the nice car, no matter how it's being paid or not paid, who cares, as long as we drive the car. I'm still married, no matter how many affairs we have, how many other kids with other people there are or whatever, but we're married. It became about the outer. And that was obviously not healthy, because with only looking on the outer, we've forgotten who we are. We didn't stand in our power. And we always had an excuse, let's face it. It includes me, all of us, by all means. Yeah, I know I need to look a bit more after myself, but, okay, fine, end of story. We don't even need to know what comes after but. But means I am not important enough to do something about it, or I do not want to feel uncomfortable enough to do something about it, so I won't. That's what but means. Doesn't matter what comes after it. This whole, when we speak to people, we only oversee it in others. You need to take more time out for yourself. You run down. Yeah, but I don't have the time, and the kids, and the family, and the job. Well, who allocates time in your life? And according to what? Yeah, but I don't have time for that. Okay, you have time for status updates on Facebook. So what about taking that time and do you? Oh no, fact is we don't know how to do us. We don't know who we are. We know what the kids want, and what the partners want, and what the neighbors want, and what the cats want, and what the dogs want, and what the dude down the road wants, and what the boss wants, even though we don't like him. But we don't know what we want, and how we work, and what fills us up. And stress is like a fashion statement. I'm stressed. Okay, what you're doing about it? Getting more stressed. Okay, and then what's going to happen? I'm so sick. And why? Because I'm stressed. What are you doing about it? Nothing. And 1 + 1 is how much? No matter from which angle. And there comes Rona. Now Rona says, like, no more excuses. Here I am. You're going to deal with that stuff now. Because you didn't make those decisions. I'm making them for you. Or I'm going to put you in a corner that somebody else makes them for you. So somehow it caused that ripple effect that it strips away what wasn't in your best interest. Or did we like that? No. 90% of people that lost their jobs, and I'm not talking about the financial side of it, that lost their jobs, hated their jobs for years. For years. Everybody knows somebody who lost their jobs. They kept it out of fear. They kept it out of, oh, I can't pay my bills. But they didn't look at anything else in the meanwhile. They talked themselves out constantly. How many people do you know that were talking for years? Oh, I want to do my own thing, but I'm not sure. They didn't trust themselves to do so and stayed in something that they hated because it pays them a salary which wasn't even a fair one. And they stayed in something that they exposed themselves for 8 to 9 hours a day that they knew is toxic. That is purposefully short selling. And now it's like, but that wasn't my choice. It was your choice for 5 years and you didn't make it. Now it's Rona's fault. Okay, but what you going to do with it? I'm just going to moan at Rona. And then I'm going to moan at the government. We all know we have a useless government. I mean, there's no ifs and buts. It doesn't matter which angle we look at it. We have a faulty government. So does pretty much 80% of countries in the world. Right, we can either sit and look at them and moan about it, or we can say, like, despite those monkeys and the old monkeys, I'm not allowed to say. Sorry, squirrels. Besides those squirrels, I did not say the other word. So I don't know what the monkeys ever did, but anyway, let's not go there. So instead of, again, focusing on the outside, because they're going to tell us what we can do when. Yeah, there's some rules and regulations that they can decide on, but how I fill the gap is entirely up to me. I know it's not all rose-colored, but it's this whole when people say, but it's so difficult. How are we going to learn life lessons when it's all fluffy all the time? We don't want to step out of what we're used to. We don't want to be out of our comfort zone. And that's another thing. Why on earth is it called comfort zone? Anybody comfortable in that? It's repetition. It's what we're used to. It's not comfortable. Comfortable means I'm content at least, if not deliriously happy. Comfort zone is really just, I've repeated it often enough that I can do it in my sleep. So it's kind of like my misery has a routine and I call it comfortable. Because there's muscle memory now attached to it. And I'm now used to it. Does it serve you? No, not really. But it's the comfort zone. Okay. But you want a whole new outcome, you want a new job, you want a new mindset, you want to feel different, you want to be healthier, you want to have a complete different outlook, and you want to be more connected within that unhealthy comfort zone. Because that's what we tried to recreate before good old Rona came. So if we look at Rona, she is just a catalyst. Or he, call it what you want. She is kind of like the rebel saying like, well, I've gave it a chance, here we go. And now we all go like, oh my God. And yes, initially we would have that reaction. We're human. We're a bit more resistant to change than other species. Let's face it. But that's really what it is. But it's always been like that. Yeah, how is it working for you? Do we have options? Yes, we do. Are they uncomfortable? We only call them uncomfortable because we haven't been there yet. We don't know if they're worse or not. We just haven't been there yet. They're actually neutral. We shouldn't even have an opinion on them yet. It's kind of like saying, I'm going to go to Italy. I've never been there, but it's horrible. You know that how? It's kind of like I'm never ever going to eat cheese. Why? Because I heard it's horrible. And you know that how? Some people like cheese, some don't, and there's only one way to find out. We do have those options. But what Corona is also forcing us, and that's what I love about that chick, she forces us to connect with our inside, because the outside doesn't apply anymore. What we started defining ourselves through is now the most unreliable source on every angle, and that's what throws us out. What we knew was like, oh, I've got a job. When you ask people, tell me about yourself, they rattle off their job descriptions. I'm an accountant and I'm a mom and I have 3 kids and my husband sells cars and I live in Umkomaas. Right, now you're giving me where you live and you're giving me your job description. I still know, check all about you. Because we don't know. So we define ourselves through all those roles. But who are you? And when I say to me, what blows your hair back? What makes you happy? What would be your ideal time out? I don't know. My kids make you happy. I'm not talking about your kids. I'm talking about you. What makes you happy? I do not know. And that means I haven't spent time here. Because I spent it out there. And there's Corona. And says, okay, not only are we going to just throw a so-called pandemic on you. It's a pandemic, all right, but yeah. Plus, we're going to lock you up at home. Plus, we're going to make you spend time with those people that you've chosen, so you should be happy with having them at home. So, plus, I'm not giving you all those other distractions like the lunches and the gym and all, not even the sanctuaries kind of stuff or anything, because you're going to sit with yourself and look at what's there. And darn, didn't we like half of what was coming up. Because when all those things are taken away, we're first going to kick and scream, because you don't tell me what to do, but they did. And then we're like, darn, and then we sat there and then we all Netflixed out after a week or two, and then what? Then we try everything else first at home. Everybody went baking and cleaning and Netflixing and beer making and I don't know what else, but that wears off after a week or two, so we try to find other busyness, because we don't want to do this. But that gets boring. I mean, 170 days. I mean, there's only that much cleaning and banana bread everybody can bake. So here we are, and banana bread had such a comeback, so well done. And pineapples will never be the same again. But we tried other busyness first in order to avoid us. Because let's face it, when all those things are coming out that we tried to keep in check. And now, Rona, together with the government, together with takes all the lids out of how dare they. Plus they take my job away. And they're stuffing fear down our throats. So who am I when they don't define who I am and they don't give me security? And that is the beauty about it. It stripped off what wasn't really us. It's parts that we need. We need to pay bills. I'm not saying that. We can't just go on whole day and somehow bills being paid and the water ain't going to get cut. I get that. but that doesn't define who we are. Because then what happened next, we are actually, after certain things fell away and the worry and the fear hits in, we go on to more reaction mode. Who am I if I can't pay my bills as I want to, if I'm worried about it, if I have to ask the bank to give me a payment break of 3 months? How embarrassing. Why is that embarrassing? There's a worldwide pandemic. Why is it so horrible to ask for help when we need it? And let's face it, it's not like the bank was suffering. But it's like, how are they going to look at me? Why did this matter so much? We say survival, but at the same time, we don't want people to look at us funny. It's either or. So it's like we had to look at our ego with that. It's like people saying, oh God, I can't afford that. Downscale. You don't need a 5-bedroom house when it's 2 people. You don't have to have 2 Mercs. You can have a car, you can have a house, you can live comfortably. But what will the neighbors say? They will say clever oak. And if they don't, it doesn't matter. So this is us reining ourselves in what really matters and what doesn't matter. And as I said, then there's either the divorces or then there's more kids. People were jumping into it and absolutely embracing having all this time with their kids and their families and whoever else was living on their property with them. And others were like, oh my God. But it only brought out what was there. I mean, if you look at it, there were so many wonderful, amazing things happening so far in this whole lockdown thing as well. I mean, businesses were coming out of nowhere because all of a sudden things that people wanted to do all along, they were forced now to do because the other option, the comfort zone, was taken away. And they're flying. They're totally flying. They wanted to do that for years, but they didn't trust themselves that they could. Now they had to, and look at that. It's perfect. And others that had done their business in kind of like shady ways kind of things, they're feeling that as well. It's a big spring cleaning. And Rona is the postman. So this is about bringing it back in. Who am I in all of this? Am I going to buy into the panic of the world? And yes, there's a million agendas out there. There's billions of people. Of course, there's millions of agendas with everything. It's just on a different scale right now. But why are we surprised? It's been there all along. 2020 is the year where the masks came off. I mean, our politicians have always been rather questionable, but right now it's more obvious than ever. And they're slipping up left, right, and center because Corona also puts the whole spotlight on. The masks are coming off, all these child pedophile rings, all of those people that have done all the wrong worldwide. Hollywood is coming down in many ways. The masks have been coming off. All the stuff that was in the closets is coming out. All these people that had affairs or not, you try and keep that up during 170 days of lockdown. Something is going to come out one way or the other. It's all about the clearing. It's all about making or breaking. And breaking is not always a bad thing. It's beginnings and endings. Lots of people passed, statistically not more than last year, by the way, but yes, but we see it in a different light. Because now we have this feel like, everybody going to drop dead. So the circumstances are different. We don't have access to people. Now that we don't have the access, even though we might have not necessarily seen them all that often before, but now I can't choose. And now it's like, all I want to do, everybody wanted to go jogging when they weren't allowed out. Half of them didn't even have techies. But I want to go jogging. What do you know about jogging? They can't tell me I can't go jogging. You didn't ever want to go jogging, but I want now. And in the meanwhile, let's all just order techies online, just in case. It's all like because I didn't have the choice. But hello, those days where you had the choices, you didn't use them, even during lockdown. Or it took a while until you ran out of other busyness till you got there, because this is about bringing it home. This is about, people are also around your friends, and very quickly it's an automated selection process. You have those that are still going in full on, I call it demon mode. It brings out the worst in people when the pressure is up. Some. And others go like, they had the initial like, wow, and they're like, it is what it is, let's just make the best of it. Of course, we have the initial kind of like, no, we don't really like big change. Others gotten worse. They got in full-on moaning and groaning, and the whole world is evil, but they're not budging 1 millimeter. And you starting kind of like differentiating, like, I'm having less of you, that's for sure. And thank goodness it's lockdown, I'm not allowed to see that person. It helps with the weaning process. Let's face it, how many people do I have say, I love this lockdown, I don't have to have excuses for certain people. I'm like, why don't you just simply tell them? Now, obviously not in a horrible way, but it's like our energy is our job. And this is a gift. But we all go with what we don't have any kind of control over and overlook the 90% that we do have control over. Yes, it's not an ideal world. Will never be ideal. There's too many components in it. But we now have more choices because we've got to make more choices than ever before. But it's big choices. That's why we're thrown out. That's why we go like, oh, I want that old normal back. It ain't going to come back. That's it. It's the old one. And it won't ever be applicable again. And let's face it, over half of it wasn't good. Take what worked for you. Toss what didn't work for you, including people, environments, jobs, yes, whatever it might be, living circumstances. And now add on what is you. It's about bringing it home. Why do we need excuses of a national lockdown that we don't need to see per certain people? Because we don't feel we have the right to defend, or to actually not even defend, to determine who has access to our energy and who doesn't. And that includes family. Especially family. They're so much harder to shake. And does not mean you need to divorce your family. But there is nothing wrong with saying to a family member, it's just another human. Happens to somehow end up in your family. And that's it. It's just another human. And if that human is toxic to you, even though it might be your uncle, your sister, your father, your mother, it doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong with saying, I know you are my brother, but your energy ain't agreeing with mine. So you're my brother over there. And that's okay. I love you, I hold the space for you, but I cannot have you in this space here right now. And that's your prerogative. And if Brother Dearest tries to and wants to throw a fit, that's his prerogative. It's not mine. We need to differentiate what's mine and what's others, and what we have control over and what not. And I don't mean control as in I want to control the world. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to control the outside. We've got zero influence over that. That's why we're exhausted. Anxiety rates through the roof. Depression through the roof. And why? Because we try to control out there. Energy is an inside out. But we have learned and adapted to that's an outside in. Now the outside doesn't apply anymore to as we know it. Now we need to build here. You need to know who you are, what's good for you. And I'm not saying ignore people that you love, of course not. But if you don't know what you bring to the party, they're going to give you what they think it is. And you can't blame them. It's on no one else. It isn't. This is time where we have to trust us and our own instincts in who we are. This whole playing it safe. It isn't bloody safe. It isn't. Having a job that you hate for mediocre payment is not safe. This is knowingly every morning signing up and agreeing to, I will today knowingly agree to jeopardize and downplay my worthiness because I think what cuts out of that paycheck is what I'm worth. And I cannot do it any other way. It's nonsense. Unless you're happy with it. If you're happy, go by all means. And then it's like, oh, the hubby is faulty and the boss is faulty. Yeah, but who's around them all the time? And is it really them? Or are we projecting? We have no control over them. It's us. It is us. And this is what we need to start going into. But the fear that is being chucked at us at the moment is as well, it's so easy to link into that. Because everything is doomsday at the moment. And not that it truly is, but that's how it is presented to us. When they put those stats out, they don't bother to say 92% recovery rate. They go like, 500,000 were infected. Yeah, 4 months ago. So they're not giving the wrong numbers, but the way they give it, they go like, no, let's just turn those numbers around and put them in a different percentage. There is no reason for any lockdown right now at all anymore because the numbers are actually below the normal flu numbers last year. But we buy it because we're in fear mode and we're in reaction mode, and this is perfect for anybody out there to do what they want to do. And not just the politicians. Reaction is where the world wants us, because we're not strong in reaction. That's why we need to connect here. One very easy thing is this, well, not easy, but one thing that we should be aware of is when we're also in reaction mode, we are not in the here and the now, we're not aware, and with that we can't stand in our power. We can only stand in our power in the here and in the now. Now with all this anxiety about the future and the paying bills and what's going to happen and how long I'm going to have my job and this, that, and the next thing, we are in the future. What if? All our thoughts are based in the future. With that, we project our fear into the future. That's where anxiety comes from. Or we go back into the past and go, and that's the depression. It's the same energy, just 2 different time frames. If I would have made different decisions 2 years ago, I right now wouldn't feel this way. Oh, you would still feel this way for different reasons, because that's how fear works. It will find another gap and just blow it up. But where we are not when we're in anxiety or depression is in the here and now. Because you cannot be in 2 or 3 time frames at the same place. So we need to learn to connect with the here and now again. And how are we in the here and now? With our senses. You cannot feel in the future. You have to wait till you get there. You can project into the future, but you cannot feel in the future. You can't say today, next year, I'm going to feel like that. You don't know that. You need to get there first. You can assume, but you don't know. The only knowing that you have is right here, right now. What you know is I am sitting on this chair right now. You don't know where you're going to sit next year this time. You can say, oh, I'm planning to, but you don't know. So the awareness is only here. You don't know how you're going to feel. Right now I'm feeling a bit anxious and I'm not sure, and I hope Heike is going to give me a message later, and whatever goes on in your head, but whatever it might be, that is right now. You will most likely be in a completely different space next year at a time, but what we have now, we project. And right now, we are projecting fear-based stuff because we feel it's out of our hand. So a very easy exercise to get in the here and now, besides breathing, really helps, and I mean conscious breathing, not automated breathing. Another one is, if you could just take your hands, please do it now if you don't mind, put them on your ears and listen for your heartbeat, because your brain will have to shut down and cannot be in other time frames until you hear your heartbeat. Just let me know how that goes. Just keep it on till you can hear it. Does it work? And it's such an easy thing you can do anywhere. So when people start like stressing out, because we will have that, we're human. I'm not saying you're going to walk out and you're never going to have a stress in the world again. We are human, but it's nice to have those little tools that we can just go like, besides the deep breathing really helps because it connects us. But things like that is like the brain has to shut down that we can do that. And it's such a simple thing to do. And another one is also, people say to me a lot, Heike, there's so much going on. I don't know anymore what's the inner and what's the outer voice. Because let's face it, the outer voice in the brain normally screams louder than the inner voice. And then because there's so much fear, we go into freeze mode. And then we do nothing. And then we keep on repeating that we kind of know it's not okay for us, but we don't have the new stuff yet, so we just freeze. And I find a quite nice and sometimes funny way is the body pendulum. Have you heard of the body pendulum before? No, okay, just very quickly. I can actually do that with you guys now as well. You've heard it? Okay, awesome. So everybody knows a normal pendulum, how it works. A pendulum on its own does nothing. It's like a hammer. It does nothing on its own unless somebody who uses it knows what to do with it. So the pendulum is really just a visual of your own energy. So it's really just a tool. So that means we can be our own tool. Now this is Heike calling you guys tools. But anyway, stand up, please, if you don't mind. And just stand very relaxed, please. And ask your body to give you a yes. And what I mean with that, you will find your body will swing or lean towards the one of the 4 directions. Just don't overthink it. Just let your body do the thing. Just ask your body to give you a yes and see what happens. Close your eyes and just let your body go in one of the directions. I see Gail is going forward big time. Can you feel your body going in one? Oh, there we go. You're definitely going. Can you all get one direction? Ask your body now to give you a no. It should be a different direction. Okay, very clearly going back, you two. Do you all have a very distinctively different direction to your no? Right, now when you've done that right now, this is you as a pendulum. So what the pendulum does here, this is you doing that. And this is energy talking to you. It's not the brain. It's the energy talking. So when you're not too sure, go into that. The only thing with that is do not overthink it. So go in whatever comes first. Thank you. But I just think right now we need tools. Because we need to override the old habits with new habits to get into the here and now. So things like that, just don't do it too much in public. They're just going to think you're drunk. I had a lady saying, Heike, everybody thinks I have a bladder infection at work because I keep on running to the toilet doing the pendulum. And this is really just a tool until you are clear again what your inner voice is. It's not supposed to be doing that for the next few years, but it's supposed to help you till you are in sync again with that inner voice because it needs to overrun the fear again. So there's lots of little things like that we can use in every day to bring it back home because it ain't out there. It's always been here. And the power, as much as it sounds all science fiction, has always been with you. And we need to take that back and be very, very aware what you let into your presence with news, with negative people at the moment. It does not mean those people are horrible, but at the moment they're in that space. And there's nothing wrong. Actually, it's your prerogative, and it's actually your job to make sure that these people are not too much infiltrating in your space. So it's about bringing it in. And this is the present that Corona brings. It truly is. And also, all of a sudden, everybody's way more aware of their health. All of there's immune boosters everywhere, and where were they before that? Didn't we need it before that? And this is where all of that comes in. It's about bringing it back home, looking after us, experiencing us, stepping into our power, trusting ourselves, and coming back to the here and now. It's just a reset button. And yes, on a global thing, because it's just not the South Africans that are needing a bit of a wake-up club, but it seems it's obviously the whole world. And if you look at some European countries, they're on round 2, so who is the slow learner? So thanks for that. I don't want to just carry on waffling, but thanks so much for that. So let's keep on swinging.